Good evening, everybody. Appreciate you being with us for our first meeting in May, City Council meeting. We've got a busy agenda this evening, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I would ask that you join us in our moment of silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Right up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay, we have several recognized guests this evening. So we will start with Mr. John Waltz from West Virginia Wesleyan, who is also the chairman of our Colonial Arts Center Board. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and I'm here certainly wearing that hat this evening, here to talk to you a little bit about progress at the Colonial Arts Center, to bring, I think, what is some good news on our reaching the conclusion of our search that we encountered on. About a year ago was right when we started getting into these meetings, and we started by establishing a mission statement for the Colonial Arts Center and a programming policy, and finally got to the point that we realized this thing was going to get done, and we needed someone to work in there and to use it as a driver for economic development and for tourism and for our youth more than anything. And so we started down that path of working through that process, and you may have some questions about where that is today, and you'll certainly hear a little more about it. But I think what's been so exciting about it, and subsequent speakers are going to tell you a little more about that this evening, but you know, when I first thought of this project as a theater person, I thought of it as a theater. And as that space has been built out and developed, and we've seen the support we've gotten for it, it's really become so much more than that. As classroom spaces have been developed, as artist spaces have been developed, places for someone from the Board of Education to work, our management position to work, as we've seen what is possible with it, it's really turned into a whole lot more than that. And I think we've seen that from community support. Certainly I can speak on behalf of Buckhannon Community Theater. We have not done a whole lot of community theater over the last few years. It's been hard for anybody to do a lot of that, but I'm proud to say we're at about halfway of our $25,000 pledge toward the Colonial Arts Center. Bryson Van Nostrand is here this evening from Art 26201, who has secured grants just within this year for a website, development of the website for the Colonial Arts Center that will take that off the plate of the budget, also to produce camps and other programming within that facility, along with a lot of the construction of the facility. You're also going to hear some good news this evening from West Virginia Wesleyan College, also from WVU St. Joseph's Hospital, and I think those are all going to be things that really inform what it is we're doing. So I'm proud that this has become not one person's vision, not a group of people's vision, but our whole community's vision, and it keeps changing as we get into it. And so we started a search for our managing director, which was the title we started with, and we came to council, and we thank you for giving us the go-ahead to work through that. That started broadly. We narrowed that down to some people we talked to on Zoom interviews and phone calls. We brought some folks to Buckhannon to talk to us, all but one who actually came. One person did not show up and spend time with us. We are not recommending that individual this evening. And as we worked through, what we found is there were a lot of different things. All the folks we met with were superbly talented, had really great breadths of experience, some with a whole lot of experience, some with just a lot of enthusiasm and a desire to get involved. And so our search led us into some different directions, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the conclusion of that, so I'll turn it over to our co-chairperson, Erica Colonial. Erica.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing John and I to come present and speak to you tonight. As John alluded to, we conducted quite an extensive search process, and we talked to folks from all gamuts really, And the conclusion that we came to is that we would like to recommend to you tonight Ann Wilson for the position of what we have called the Colonial Arts Center manager as opposed to the director. So if you'll let me explain. Ann is a wonderful young lady who has an arts management degree from West Virginia Wesleyan College. And two things drew us to Ann. And those two things are growth and passion. And I wish that y'all could have been there with us, because she showed, and Councilwoman Buckley was there with us, and Recorder Sanders, and the mayor was there. And she exhibits more passion than anybody I have ever heard talk about this process. She became almost teary telling us a story about how when she was in college at Wesleyan and heard that Buckhannon was undertaking an arts center, how excited she got about the idea that she could stay in Buckhannon and be part of that process. She is someone who has passion and exuberance to grow with the Colonial Arts Center. And because of that, she has is someone that we think could come in at a more modest salary that would allow us to use some of that extra money that we talked about having to hire a consultant to guide Ms. Wilson and the Colonial Arts Center to the successful project that we know that it can be. She is a wonderful young lady. Again, she has agreed, if accepted by council, to accept what we think is a very modest salary for the undertaking that she's going to be doing. So it is on behalf of the Colonial Arts Center Board that I would request that you approve Ann Wilson as the Colonial Arts Center manager.
And I can tell, let Mr. Sanders speak as well. Everything Erica just captured is absolutely true. She and Mrs. Buckley as well. She spoke with a great deal of enthusiasm about the project and about the theater in itself. I think it's also a point too that we can extend an employment opportunity to a Wesleyan student who's not from Buckhannon to stay in Buckhannon. I think that is important too. And as myself and Mr. Ryland's proud alums of Wesleyan, I think I love that we're able to extend this to someone who's basically grown up around it and done college projects with it. So I appreciate it.
And I concur with the mayor and with Erica and her recommendation to hire Ann Wilson. She just really came alive really in the second interview. The first interview was solid, but she really started hitting some home runs in that second interview, and the enthusiasm. And we were able to meet with her one-on-one at that one. We were doing a Zoom call the first time. But she really came in strong and just gave us a great presentation. The scenario that is outlined as well allows us to provide her with an opportunity to have success so that we can go out and get a consultant who does have some years of experience. We'll entertain who that consultant might be at a later time, but to be able to guide and provide wisdom and so forth so that we're not setting somebody up for failure in what's going to be a very robust and challenging adventure, because this will be the first manager for this property, and we want that person to be very, very successful. I know the board is dedicated to make sure that'll happen. I'm sure the council will be as well. So I'm thrilled that we have this recommendation before us tonight, and I think you can imagine how I'll vote when we get to that point. So thank you.
I can concur in what they had to say. I only got to see the second interview, and she had such energy, and she was very impressive in that way. And I think that energy will really show getting that clinical year going, and I'm real excited about it. So, thank you.
While we have our two representatives here, I would like to invoke Chair's prerogative and bring F1 to the table, which is Colonial Arts Center Board recommendation, consideration of hiring manager, we'll scratch that, a manager, Ann Wilson. It would be my recommendation as follows from Mr. Waltz and Mrs. Kolinich. So is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion, please.
We have a motion by Mrs. Buckley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rylands. Is there any further discussion?
I would like to say something. you're absolutely right. Like, this did not start out where it's at now, and I need you to know that I've saw that process. I think a lot of people had a different opinion of my opinion. I just needed information. That's all I was asking for. But I am impressed with the direction it's going, and I just want to say that. I just want to give you that because I think you need it, you know, and I think you deserve it. So
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We really appreciate that.
What-
Thank you.
When will the position start?
We hope as soon as possible. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
as soon as possible, once all the, any background checks or any of the pieces we need to move through at the city level.
She'll immediately work with Amby, David, on the normal processes any employee of the city will go through.
She is certainly ready to grab the bull by the horns, so to speak, and start running with it. She's very excited.
Well, and I think it's important too, as Mrs. Sines just said, this is going to be a learning process for all. We've not done this before, and Ann knows that, and Ann's not done this before, and we know that. So we are going to be learning together, and I think we're going to. There's going to be some bumps. We know that, and we just hope that the community's patient with us. We hope that she's patient with us, and we hope that we can be patient with her. So I feel really good about it, and I think that we are definitely headed in the right direction. So if there is no further discussion, I will go ahead and call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Well,
Wait for Jack.
Jack.
I thought he said it.
Thank you. I just got home, I didn't hear any of the discussion, so
Okay.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
you abstained then. We have one abstain because they missed the discussion. I'll note that.
Motion carries with one abstention. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really
Appreciate your
it.
effort.
Yeah.
Have a good evening and be safe.
Okay, next is Dr. James Moore. Congratulations on being named interim president of our alma mater. Welcome to council.
Thank you. Really pleased to be here this evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Recorder. It has been an exciting 3 months since the transition, and I've been just really enthused and excited at some of the changes that we're working on at the college, and also what I'm about to tell you regarding the Arts Center, I think is a step in a direction that is long overdue for the institution, which is to lean further into being partners with the city. So that's what I'm very excited to be here tonight in an official capacity from West Virginia Wesleyan College. First of all, to express our strong support for the Colonial Arts Center. I've had the good fortune to travel all over the world as a professional jazz musician. Before I crossed over into higher education administration, I was a music professor. And so I've been very fortunate to see the impact that the arts have on communities large and small. And I have to say that finding something like this space that's evolving in the city of Buckhannon, the Colonial Arts Center, finding that anywhere in the world would be awesome. Having it here in this city, for me as a West Virginia native and specifically as a native of this part of the state, is really very special. Wesleyan considers the relationship between the college and the city of Buckhannon totally vital to our shared aims and our shared values. This town keeps getting better and better and hipper, if I can use a term from my life as a jazz musician, and it's really true. And all that does is strengthen the college as well. My administration really does value the city of Buckhannon and the state of West Virginia. And I'm proud of the spirit of ingenuity and love of place that I see in all the projects that various stakeholders in the city of Buckhannon undertake. So it's in no small part because of that that I'm excited to announce that it is the college's intention to provide real support to the Colonial Arts Center. Wesleyan is absolutely willing to commit to placing performing arts students in residency and internship roles at the center. We are willing and able to give of our arts faculty and arts staff's expertise and pledge gifts in kind in the way of technical support for Arts Center needs and professional services. We're mindful that the Arts Center doesn't have a large enough space, for example, to build larger set items that might be needed for BCT or any other performances that happen on the theater stage. So the college is more than willing to allow our scene shop at the Performing Arts Center and our equipment to be used to support whatever technical needs the Arts Center deems appropriate. Our resources, human and technical, are at the formal and official disposal of the City of Buckhannon and the Colonial Arts Center. Now, we're working to draft a memorandum of understanding for city officials to consider and also for folks at Art 26201 to be part of. I expect this to be ready very soon so that we can formalize this partnership and iron out all the finer details of the support that the college is willing and prepared to deploy for the Colonial Arts Center. I think what sets Buckhannon apart from other places in West Virginia is, in my opinion, the intentionality with which projects like this and so many others are brought to fruition and the collaboration that happens between all these different stakeholders. You mentioned, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Recorder, that this is going to be a learning process for the new manager. It's going to be a learning process for us, too, about how we can support the Colonial Arts Center. Take it from somebody who used to be and still is a professional in the arts world. We live to learn from our mistakes. As a jazz musician, I make mistakes in real time in front of people all the time. That's part of what the music means. So I can say, as an artist myself, that the mistakes that are going to happen, the bumps that are going to be hit, are all supposed to happen. They're all normal, and we're all going to learn from them. That's the process. So I applaud you all for taking that leap and taking a chance on this, and I think it's going to pay big dividends. So thank you all for working so hard to make this city a great place to be, and I can't wait to see all the other opportunities that the college and the city are going to have to join hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Thank you very much. Okay. Next up, we have Lisa Turner, Lisa Wharton. Lisa, sorry. Dawn's going to do it. Dawn Nestor is going to be, I can't believe I just said that, Lisa. 8 meetings today, and a little foggy up here.
Excuse.
So we have Dawn Nestor from St. Joseph's Hospital. Well, Dawn, I think I've seen you at 5 of the meetings today.
Yeah. I think we've eaten at 2 of them.
Yeah, had some ice cream.
Yeah, ice cream from CJ, so yeah, it was good.
He ate the rest. So
Good day.
Yeah. That, well, Mr. Mayor and members of the council and fellow citizens, really pleasure for me to be here tonight on behalf of St. Joseph's Hospital. I'm a member of the board of directors there, and Lisa is also with St. Joe. Lisa Wharton, St. Joe, and she is she's. And I've been talking about the commitment with the Colonial Arts Center and how important it is for here in the community. And just like Dr. Moore was saying, Buckhannon is a very special place. But it's special because of the people. You know, the thing that I've enjoyed and appreciated most about is the people here and their commitment to work together. When we've worked with the Education Coalition through the Board of Education, and the folks that we talk to are saying, everybody talks about the same problems. Buckhannon and Upshur County does more about them. We're working together. So I think this is a great example of that. And I'm here tonight to express our support and our appreciation from St. Joseph's Hospital for that, because what you're doing with the arts here is not only improving for the youth in the community. I've been involved with the Stockard Youth Center and with education for a lot of years here. This improves a lot of things within the community for our youth and our older citizens, but also makes it easier for us when we're recruiting physicians and other healthcare providers here in the community, because they look beyond just the job. They look at the community that they're working in. So it's my pleasure tonight to say we, as the board of directors at St. Joseph's Hospital, are going to making a pledge of $50,000 in support for the Colonial Arts Center, and also our full commitment to work with the center and the community, as we have, for the future of Buckhannon and the arts here. It's such an extremely positive thing, and I think we're all excited to see where it goes. So appreciate the effort by those folks in the arts community that have worked on this, and look forward to where it goes.
We appreciate what you're doing.
thank you.
Thank you.
would also be remiss if we didn't also thank Bryson. Bryson has been working with St. Joseph's Hospital with a potential gift for quite some time. And Bryson, we very much appreciate your efforts in working with St. Joe's as well as the entire project all along. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Doc, what kind of good news
Now
do
you
you
got-
have?
Well, you
What you
better
got for us, Doc?
You better be fired up, Doc. A lot of pressure.
We have a good assistant here.
You did a good job already.
This is
There we go.
Lori Harvey and her daughter.
Yes, this is the manager of the household, the Lee Harvey household. I'm here to help Dr. Reed with any.
What we would like to do is to, for the festivals, post these posters on the lamp posts on Main Street to encourage people and to thank them for not using tobacco and e-cigarettes during the parade. We wish we could eliminate it entirely, but we know how difficult that is. And our real hope is that eventually we can help people not start. That's the call to your attention. City Council's
F2 is what Dr. Reed has come to request of us. And just to give some background, Dr. Reed came to our Consolidated Public Works Board meeting last week, and it was on the agenda. So we could not take action at Consolidated Public Works. So Consolidated Public Works doesn't take up again until after Strawberry Festival. So we agreed at Consolidated to place this on the City Council agenda for consideration because we're still before the Strawberry Festival. So the request is, as he mentioned, to have the signage that Julia is holding to be placed down through town on lampposts for the festival.
And just for a little bit of backlog, I'm the vice chair. I completely forgot to put it through the board either. So Dr. Reed and I have been just a little busy for things. But before, these signs were actually drilled by either the festival or the city themselves to be zip tied that were below the parking signs that go on Main Street. So I looked it up and we did them from 2016 to 2019. And Amanda Hayes could not be here, but I agree with her. We saw a decreased use in tobacco products because you can also see they have snuff, but e-cigs as well on there. And it's the city ordinance, and we're hoping, after 2 years of a parade, no parades, we're hoping that we can get these back out there and help people remember there's no, any kind of tobacco use at all.
How about
in the
vaping?
city. Vaping is on the sign, actually.
e-cigarettes.
E6.
We did these back in 2016 when the Tobacco Prevention Coalition still had funding. It hasn't had funding since that, or 2017. So the Upshur FRN, which I'm the director, we've kind of taken the Tobacco Prevention Coalition underneath our wing just to keep it functioning. We're one of the few tobacco coalitions that are in the state still. So you just have a few diehards that, are still going for it. But, so it does say e-cigs, but we would say vape now. Sure. But of course the sign's already made.
Yeah.
And they're about, I'd say, I didn't measure one, but they are about the same size as a campaign sign. So
How many are going to be up? How many are you wanting?
we have 10 to 12. We're not exactly sure how many we have.
And that would stretch the whole parade route? Is that what you're trying to?
Just Main Street.
Yeah, I think in the past it's been just Main Street because there's places to affix them. The only other way we could do this is if we actually stake them in the ground.
I was wondering, have you thought about actually asking business owners to put it on their building since it's a temporary thing? Because if I'm standing on one side of the street and I look across, I can see that up. Just because I'm walking down the street doesn't mean I'm going to pay attention to that sign. But if you're seeing from one side to the other,
Yeah, the one thing that we've seen about that though is if you think of 2 or 3 or 4 deep, especially on Main Street, then you're not really going to see these very much. It's just going to blend in with everything else, especially them being red.
But if you
for
put it
Supper
up high
Festival.
enough, like from being on
That would
South
also be
Street
to the discretion of the business owners. So, and
But you
how
only
far
have
we
12
can get
signs
them.
left?
10 to 12 right now,
10 to
yes.
12.
Because we haven't had enough funding to do it, plus the past 2 years we haven't pursued it, obviously.
So next year we could have a lot more.
If we can get some funding from somewhere, yes. We do have 8.5 by 11 laminated ones that I think 2017, 18, and 19, I went around to our establishments and most of them has taken them and I need to get them remade because they've kept them up to the point that they're now faded. So they really did, they really were accepting of that. But getting these hung up that quickly, I'm not sure we could or not. So, before these have been with the no parking signs.
If the city wants to put these up, that's okay. If you don't and you're willing, we can put them up. And my suggestion is put them up so that we're both head high so you can see them, people in the crowd.
Need a motion, Mayor?
Yeah.
I move we accept this request for
Second.
new signs downtown.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Does that include where the signs will be? Just to be sure.
Why don't we try to think about each corner? So like, you know, one like in front of, near where like Lance Corey's office is, one in front of like Fish Hawk, going that way, one in front of,
Stagger them.
yeah, just that way we try to,
Yeah,
yeah.
maximize.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to put them up or do you want us to put them up?
Amby.
We need to put up the parade signs anyway, so we could put them up at the same time if you want us to.
That's fine.
What
Well,
Yeah, I think that would be better.
That's what has
Yeah.
happened in the past when we came
Thank you for what you're doing.
And
No problem.
while we're asking for next year too, if that's okay.
It doesn't have a date on this request.
Joe, we'd rather see you come back, Doc.
He's also asking for the,
World Association of Marching Show Bands in 23.
right, so.
Yeah, that's part of the proposal.
If
Hey.
if we can get a little bit of funding, we could help
If
get
you'll-
those around every
Yeah.
year.
It does say 2022 and 2023 for the West Virginia Strawberry Festival, so if Mr. Rollins, you amend that motion to include?
Yes, sir.
You got it.
I'm okay with it too.
You okay with it for the second? All right, then it says 2022, 2023, and it includes the International Association of Marching Show Bands in 2023.
Saved you a trip, Doc.
Yeah. So we got it all in one.
Now you can focus on the beans.
Yeah, we can. Can you tell them thank you?
Okay,
We have a thank you coming. All right, wow, maybe not.
thank you, Julia. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed, motion carries. Okay. All right, we are through everybody that is on the agenda. I mean, Ron, do you have anything? No? Okay. So we have Dr. Reese.
I would request to speak after we.
Oh, you are.
I would request to speak after we have that first reading of the ordinance about condos and living units.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's down, that's F8, so it'll be just a little while.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much for coming, and thank you for everything. Dr. Stankus, would you like to say anything before you snuck in?
Glad to be here. Glad to see you all.
We need our sign. No.
Okay. We are down to our department and board reports. We have Mr. Jerry Arnold, ready to present.
Hello, Jerry.
Wow you with this report.
Where's the money?
Yeah, let me see what I got on me here. I've been working on setting up our new pavement management software, and we're going through training on that. I will tell you that it is pretty extensive, and I'll be excited to share that in a future council meeting. We've gotten they actually did the assessment when they were doing the imagery. And like I said, it's very extensive as to what that software can do and what it's going to do for us in planning and budgeting for pavement work. So be tickled, like I said, to bring that to you in the future. We've installed, the street department's installed the ground stabilization material jawbone, and you have under a strategic line request to purchase an additional 2,000 square feet of material to do some other areas there in Jawbone. We've installed the water and sewer facilities on the Madison Street lot for the carnival, and we've completed about 30% of our pothole patching, and we'll continue repairs as soon as our repairs are made to our roller. Crews continue to work on the sewer department, continue to work on the Shawnee project, and they've completed a short extension off Swisher Street. There's been 2 new generators installed at Brook Street and Vicksburg pump stations. And the old generators, as we decommission those, we are looking at placing them at other facilities in the city for backup power, and the ones that aren't will go into our sales stock for our online sales. Water department, the crew's been busy repairing leaks. They've had 3 leaks in the past 2 weeks, and final install on the link stuff, the tower, our communication stuff on the roof. Under the local flood protection project, a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers and the West Virginia DNR was held on April 8th at City Hall to address the DNR's concerns about preserving the aquatic habitat within the project area. Jay's going to be making a boat trip on May the 9th. I don't know if it's just the Buckhannon River, if he's doing extensive travel, but he just said a boat trip.
Yeah.
But he'll be doing that on the project area, and then they're going to get together and talk about what the state and federal agencies really want out of that project. Do we need to remove all the trees, 20% of the trees? So once they come to a happy medium, then we'll commence on a project to undertake that within that flood control project. That's all I have, unless there's questions.
Gary, this Links, Raven Rock, and Sudlink, are they putting attachments on our roof? Is that what's going on?
It's our equipment, CJ. They're not affixed to the roof. They are like the temporary towers. They're weighted towers, but they're not affixed to the roof.
Right. Because I would recommend that the roofing company kind of manage that. I've seen techs go up and just screw right down through the roof.
Yeah, we currently have, again, we had to move the tower from the section being done over onto the section that's been done. And when we do that, we have those protective pads that have to go underneath of everything. And then we also have the walkways up there. So we place those, and like I said, right now with Links, it's moving a tower, and we do have to have make a perforation for
cables.
Yeah, well, for fiber, yes, CJ, from the server room up, but that'll be taken care of.
The roofing company's providing that.
Yes,
right?
yes, we just make the perf and then they do the boot.
Jerry, the old waste garage, is there any plans for doing anything with that piece of property yet? The old garage, the old down there.
Oh, down here?
Yes.
Well, Pam, as I said, I've gotten a map out there. There's been some discussion about some possible property trades with West Virginia Wesleyan College. I know that there's been a presentation done to their board of directors. I think it was looked on favorable to them, and as I told you, I was hoping that I would have something to bring to you all in an executive session to take a look at sooner than now. But I would expect in the next, at least in the next couple council meetings, that you would have something from that. And there's also been some expressed interest from someone else in that property down there. But again, you know, if you're going to dispose of that property any way other than property trade, it would have to be in an auction.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Jerry, any idea when the street sweeper will start
We've been sweeping.
Yeah,
We've been,
Okay, I've had a couple calls and I
Yeah.
wasn't aware of it.
yeah, we have been, Dave. We've
Okay.
been pretty, he goes out just about every nice day we have. And, you know, he can't sweep in the rain.
Yeah,
but-
I understand that.
But yeah, he's been out quite a bit.
I want to publicly thank Brian McDaniels. If you've said this, I'm sorry,
No, I
but
haven't.
I messaged him earlier this week. He's been helping us so much with getting curbs painted. He's been doing a heck of a job. Parade route looks great. Town's looking very, it's amazing what the details do. And I appreciate the details being taken care of, and it's something I know that this council has been very, has had at the forefront, and I appreciate that. And so I want to thank Brian and our street crew too for working with him and him working with you all. Everything's really starting to look very well kept and very nice out ahead of our big event. So
I will tell you the same thing I told Jack Rieger coming in this evening. You know, Brian has done an excellent job, and I'm hoping, we've had paint ordered now for about a month, and like everything else in the world right now, it's very slow. So Brian's getting down to the end of our stock, so I'm hoping to get that paint in and keep him going. But you know, be patient, just like with the pothole patching. We will get there. We'll get it done. But yes, he's done an excellent job.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have we done F3?
No.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that since it's by his name. And this is the approval to purchase, as he mentioned, the True Grid pavers in Jawbone Park. You said how much more?
The quote for the materials for the True Grid pavers is $4,500, but by the time we get our soil and everything in, it's about $5,000, an additional $5,000.
Are you pleased at this point with the installation of the other stabilizer?
I am. There's a couple spots that are a little high.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping they settle out once we get these, and then I'll know more, or we'll give you a better answer on that, Randy, after we put vendors on it after this festival. But again, like I said, all the information that I've read on it, and I've read quite a few articles, this was the direction to go as far as what we're trying to achieve there. I mean, if we wanted a parking lot, of course,
yeah,
you pour concrete, but trying to keep that green space and still use it actively as we do in the summertime, this seems to be the material to use. So, and it's the least intrusive as far as surface preparation. It's actually called root, and the reason it's called root is because the grass roots actually are the suspension mechanism for the material.
Mayor, we approve this $5,000.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rylance, a second by Mr. Sanders. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Up next, Finance Director, Amy Jenkins.
Can you hear me, Jack? I feel so powerful when I do that.
I can hear you.
Good one. There you go.
Keep it up, Andy.
Okay. Well, I forgot my glasses, so. All right, I've got. Pardon? I have to clap for her. I think I can do it, maybe. Or I think I should. I might need to. So I've got a lot to, well, not a lot to tell you, but quite a bit of information. Lots of numbers. Oh, that's cool.
And just like that, we have two Sheilas.
Sorry, Andy. Okay, down to business here. Okay, I'm going to give you the balances for your general fund and the funds that have more to do with the operations of the general fund and city functions. Balances at the end of April, and that says March. It's April. Money market in checking, $953,433. Your CD remains the same at $86,000. Historic landmark savings, $3,026. Stockford Youth Center Capital Campaign, we had a couple $1,000 contribution from B-Dubs that they did a fundraiser out there. So with the pledge, that's come up to $445,000. Coal tax is at $60,334. Municipal stabilization, $914,953. Flood control, $78,266. Consolidated Public Works, $190,000, and their CD is at $234,000. Sales tax, and I don't know if I recall telling you the last time, but we got a $448,000 check or contribution from sales tax. So that brings our sales tax up to $1,887,000. We have $851,000 that still needs to come into general fund. So I'm still anticipating a balance carryover that we can work with coming July 1. The American Rescue Plan account, which is the ARPA monies, is the short term for that. It's $1,140,000. There's just been a few small bills issued from there right now. We're going to get ready to start spending some money out of that, and there will be regular reports on them.
And just to remind council, we've only received the first half
That's correct.
of that payment, so we have not spent over $1 million. This is just the first half of the payment.
That's correct, and I did get information that we have to request that second tranche ourselves. We have to put in a request for that, and we'll do that when it comes time, when they notify me. We received a letter from the Upshur County Commission that they're going to send that $60,000 of their ARPA money that's going towards the training facility to the city of Buckhannon, directly to the city of Buckhannon. So at that point, I'll know next, maybe by the next council meeting, what to do, if we're going to spend that this year, or if I need to set that aside when we go into July 1, so that doesn't just kind of get absorbed into the general fund's balance on hand. Or if we do, then we have to make sure we budget that in a line item for the training facility. There was some success with our properties that we sold at the auction last week. Those were properties that we acquired through a tax sale that were actually some problem properties. We sent our people in to check out the buildings that were on them, determine whether they needed to be taken down or kept, and as council's aware of, we had to raise one house and we kept another. We got $47,000 out of the Sedgwick Street property, well over our reserve. I will come back again to ask council for permission to open an account to set that aside to make sure that is used for next year when we get ready to clean up some more properties. This is a slow process, but we keep taking. We're making accomplishments, and we have 2 on the books, if it happens that way, next year to take care of that are problem properties. The closing on that is June the 27th, and Tom will be deeply involved in that. We're still sending out letters to customers asking about the water lines. We need to know if they're copper or lead. That's a DEP regulation. So I'll probably report that at every meeting just so that citizens will know these letters are coming from us and it's a legitimate information that we need to put into our Excel sheet so that we can have that ready for DEP when it comes time. I think this would probably be a good time. Councilman Thomas had asked me for some information on the cost of what we've dealt with the theater project. And of course, tonight I got a little bit emotional back there. I was so happy about the support that we had here with that. You've got a really good board. I have to sit in and take the minutes of it. They really think about, they want this to succeed. And by getting that consultant, and the mayor mentioned we've not done this before, and people have offered to consult that know a lot about theater and operating a theater. So I think that's it. We're pioneering a path the city has not been down yet, and I think it's going to be a true success. So, but with success, there's money, so that's where I'm going to lead up to my part. Get you ready for this. All right, so we acquired the theater in 2017. We purchased the property for $60,000. As you recall, the property was not in very good condition. It was probably a matter of time until something happened to that, similar to the corner. Now that's my speculation. I might have been wrong, but I don't think so. Water's running out of the electrical sockets. So just a summary, the revenues and that we received since 2017, and this is the grants and contributions. We received about $239,000 in grants. And we received so far contributions of $66,317. BCT mentioned they have contributed, they have pledged $25,000. We've got about $12,800 from them. First Energy has contributed $20,000. ART 26201 has contributed $15,000. And we have several small contributions from various people that I couldn't name them all. We do have a small grant this year that we still have to draw on, which is $39,000, but I'm counting that in there because we will be getting it. So total in grants and donations over the 5 years is $345,317. Expenses. So we were doing really well up through June of last year, 21, because we had some grants supplementing it. Our people were in there and able to do some of the work. But this year, you know, we wanted our people out there doing some more of the street and paving projects, so that kind of put back on some contractors, various contractors to come in and help us do the work. So up to 21, we expensed $724,230. This year, and this is this year so far, we've expensed $326,883. I talked to Bryson about what do we need to finish what we can up to June 30th, so we will have this project pretty much done. I was hoping he would stay here, but I'm not a contractor, but I've been in there a few times. My personal opinion, and I don't know, Jerry might be able to step in on this, I think probably by June 30th this would be 85 to 90% complete. I don't know. I know we need seating, and that's not even been talked about yet. So that's $130,400 to finish up some work. So expenses to date is $1,181,513, and that less the grants and donations, what the city has expensed into that is $836,000 over a 5-year period. So I do have a budget revision that'll have some of those funds in it from this year that I'll need, but wanted to update you on that. The revenues and expenditures for general fund, I forgot to tell you that for April. Revenues $702,000, expenses $698,000, so about $4,000 more in revenues than expenses.
It breaks out, just the quick math, to about $167,200 per year over the past 5.
Yes.
So if we have not spent $807,000 in 1 year. So, and we can't ignore the obvious that over the past year, the cost of materials and the availability of getting materials, the game has changed significantly.
I think too that proves to the point that, you know, we really go to our city staff a lot, and we did in the beginning, which paid dividend, but it also prolonged the project. No one could foresee the rise in materials or the rise in labor costs and so forth, but would have been nice had we, you know, contracted some of this out earlier and got it done quicker, you know, before those increases went in there. But I got to pay compliments to the city's crew for all of the work that they did, and they continue to go in and do certain specialized work that even the contractors can't really handle or don't want to handle. I know Jerry and his crews have been in there, and electricians in there now literally tying up some loose ends on the electrical work. But I think that it just, I know I just went through a major renovation that started years ago, and it really, the increase in these materials just completely blindsided me, you know, as we came into last year or so. And it was just horrendous, but compliments to everyone who's worked on it. I think we're almost there.
Budget revision later.
You want to do it? We can do it now. It's under your name.
All right, you're ready?
Yeah, let's roll.
Okay, works for me. I can still see right now.
Yeah, I have to get the glasses.
Have to get these glasses back pretty soon. Okay, so you go to your packets where the budget revision is, and I always like to kind of detail line by line the funds, if you can get to that part.
Yep.
General fund budget revision number 4. This is really kind of when I do a budget revision throughout the year. When we get towards the end, June 30th is our fiscal year end. And I like to start cleaning up the account numbers that need to be cleaned up and be prepared to, if we have to do another one, it's just a few lines and it's not several lines.
Before you get started, I want to point out and make sure that we recognize that it's only number 4. There are some cities out there that do a budget revision every other council meeting because of they don't have a great grasp of the finances. We're very fortunate, and with your leadership, to we don't have to do this very often. And as you said, we do this at this time every year, and we've done this, as the council knows, in every board, just to clean things up as we approach the end of the year. So this is a normal time to do it, and I appreciate the fact that Amby knows our finances so well that we don't have to do this very often at all. So.
Well, thank you.
You're moving up.
Here, here. Yeah, I haven't finished with budget revision yet.
That's why I wanted to get that out there before you give us the bad news.
I'm at a high. I'll get low here in a little bit. Okay, so in your revenues, you can see these are actually items that we collected more than was budgeted for. So the total revenues that we collected more than we budgeted for right now, so that means those are going to keep going. I just don't want to dig in too deep, is $386,239. The bigger one is your B&O tax of $179,000. And I mean, I can't give you details, but I can tell you this, that when I kind of studied the B&O, I thought, where are we going higher at? So everything was a little high, but I saw some manufacturing that was higher. And that's about as far as I can get in the weeds with you. Prior year tax is $7,600. Contractor, same thing. We're getting some work done in Buckhannon. So $98,000, and again, that's some work. That's some of the obvious construction work you can probably see when you're out there driving around. Rents, $12,000. That's from the health department renting our space out at the Mudlick facility. Gateway West, we didn't budget for that, but they had actually sent us a check early on from last year, so we had to, I've got to plug that in there somewhere. And then miscellaneous revenue. Actually, they're over a little bit more than that, but I needed $20,000 to cover some insurance checks that the fire department had some work for.
Who's that?
Who's Jay?
Oh, okay.
Jay Holland.
In your expenses, under event expenses, I'm filling in the gap there for $10,000 to the Strawberry Festival, $2,000 to Leadership Upshur, $1,000 to the chamber sponsorship, then the barbecue bash at $2,000. Let's see, I'm going to jump down to the bigger ones. I could pull some things from the attorney's insurance. That was less than I needed. So I pulled some of that out of there, $2,298. Down in contingency, so I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but I needed to plug that in somewhere. And I thought that would be a good place. That's where council has the discretion of where they want to use this money. I talked to Jerry about his budget, which needed some funding too. It needed, for paving, the paving costs went up quite a bit. Supplies went up. So I filled in his budget, and he said where I have it, and I also filled in for your stabilization that you just did. I knew that was probably going to pass, so I put that in there too. And then there was around $20,000 on Shawnee project, and he said he thought he had enough work that he didn't need more added. But just as a heads up, if you select to do a project that he's ready to do, we would have to revise again. But we can. We can. As you can see through our balances, we can do that. Let's see. So fire department salaries, those were coming less than we anticipated, but then we didn't hire those new fire officers till November. So you have that little bit of gap, so we could kind of adjust that out there. I talked to JB actually talked to me about this too, so he's aware of it. He asked for $5,000 extra in his materials. He asked for $10,000 extra in his auto. He had some damage on some trucks, so we had to put that in there too. Uniforms, $1,500, and I think he said some turnout gear he needed. Fire department capital outlay, $5,000. And so then we get into the street department utilities, $15,800 from a gas bill we have been struggling with the new garage, and I think that's finally resolved. But I had to build in where we were expensing more than I anticipated. $7,300 in department materials. All I did was take what was left in the snow budget and put it up in materials because we are not going to have any more snow. I've announced that.
How about a frost?
Well, you might have a frost. They have some salt materials left.
Can you guarantee that forever? I mean,
Not
like,
forever.
for good?
This is the budget that ends June 30th.
So no snow.
It could snow July. Street paving, like I said, they went up $10 a ton for paving. I had to put $40,500 in there to cover those expenses of paving. Then, like I said, moved to snow removal. I pulled out half of everything on the Colonial Theater employee because she's not going to start work till late May, early June, once we get all the paperwork back, and we're not going to use that money for her. And so I reduced that, but I did add $10,000, and I don't think we're even going to use that yet for the professional services, because I don't think the professional services will cost that, but I'm just kind of being prepared. But here's the bigger one, the theater building, $235,700. That's what I need to cover what they need to expend up through June 30th. And so it matches just what you have in your revenues, $386,239. It balances out.
So what do you need, a resolution or a motion?
It's a resolution.
So we'll need a motion and a second, and then we'll have to do a roll call.
I'll so move.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Thomas, we'll give it to CJ, second by Mr. Rylance. Is there any discussion? Hearing the need for none, thank you, Amby. I will defer to Mr. Recorder for the roll call.
We get down to do the motion. Thomas?
And Rylance.
Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
All right, roll call on this resolution. Mrs. Sines?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucklew?
Yes.
Mr. Rigger?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders votes yes. Mr. Skinner?
Yes.
Passed unanimously.
Thank you, Sheila.
I'll need everybody's signatures before you leave tonight.
Go ahead and pass that around.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Amby, for all your work on that.
I do have one comment.
Okay.
Thanks, Amby, for your report. 2017, we all agreed to, I think it was a unanimous decision, to purchase the Colonial Arts Center, and I'm still glad we did that. I think it's a great thing for the community. But it's interesting, I think when we all agreed to do that, none of us had the idea that it was going to cost as much as it is going to refurbish it and renovate it and so forth. And I think when we take a look at some other purchases for the future, we need to try to look at a pro forma early on to see if we have made a right decision. I think many things are going to be looking good for us for the future because of the sales tax. And I'm really glad we have the sales tax today, and also this COVID reimbursement we're getting for different things has really put the city in a very, very nice position financially. But it doesn't mean it's going to last forever, but right now we're in pretty good shape financially. And I don't think any of us thought that, at least I didn't think the refurbishing of Colonial was going to cost as much as it is. But we have the resources to do it, so that's great. And I appreciate the donations that people are making for that particular facility.
Thank you, Dave. I agree. Okay. We have with us Captain Joey Baxa from the City Fire Department. Good evening.
Good evening. I'll need everybody's signatures before you leave tonight.
Good evening.
I'll show you. Okay. Okay. So what do you need, a resolution or a motion?
Thank you.
I'll show you.
Good evening. In your all's packet this evening, you should have got our incident totals for the first quarter of the year. I'm not going to go through those line by line, but just to make a quick note, our incidents this year in 2022 are down by about 10%. We can attribute some of that to probably a decrease in the number of medical calls from COVID that we're not getting right now. Plus, there's been some changes in dispatch policies as far as when we go into some of our mutual and automatic aid territories. I do want to remind you, I like to do this once a year, that we do not run EMS calls automatically outside the city limits. So that's why you see the discretion between city calls and county calls, whereas historically, like a decade ago, those would have been closer to a 60-40 split. Now they're much more than that. There's way more city calls on the books than there is county calls as far as that goes. Some other things that are happening around the fire station, you might have saw the new graphic on the bay door to help drive recruitment efforts. We thank those that were involved in creating that, and it turned out really well. If you haven't saw that, please swing by and take a look at it. Strawberry Festival preparations are underway. We're readying our apparatus and doing some general maintenance just to kind of spruce things up to prepare for the influx and make things look nicer. One of the other things I wanted to outline this evening with the Wesleyan group that was here earlier, we've actually recently had a partnership with Wesleyan as well with their athletic training department. Their athletic trainers came in and did some injury prevention screening with both the career and volunteer firefighters. So that was something that we've never really had available to us in the past from any healthcare entity, and we greatly appreciate that partnership that's been started. And just the last thing, one other little sidebar, Amy made note of the $60,000 from the county as far as the live fire training facility. We're going to continue to take it slow on that because it's something we've never done before. I'm probably the only one in the department that has any sort of experience extensively with live burn facilities, so this is going to be a growth opportunity for us and something we want to make sure we do right the first time. So, is there any questions from council this evening?
I agree, the graphic looks great, so
Yeah.
good advertising.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. O'Neill. The big winner tonight, number 5, number 7, number 8, all belong to you.
I wish those are the Powerball numbers. I'd do something with that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm happy to address the strategic items now or wait till later, but I would like to make mention of one thing in particular, just a reminder to the council, to our audience present and watching Channel 3 and online, that pursuant to the ordinance that was adopted by council a couple months ago, parade on-street parking during the upcoming parades for the Strawberry Festival they've always been restricted, but now there is an enforcement mechanism behind them. Those parade routes will be posted, and we'd just like to encourage everyone who parks on Main Street will be parking on Main Street on this coming Saturday and the following Thursday, Friday, or next Saturday, and the following Thursday, Friday, and Saturday when we have our parades for festival. Everybody removes their vehicles from the parade routes as posted by the signs so that we don't have any problems with having to tow or ticket anyone. So just as a public service announcement.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll be back.
Okay. All right. Under correspondence and information, you have the letter from the Upstream County Commission as Amby, this is different, sorry. We talked about this at Stockard Youth and Community Center meeting earlier this evening. The County Commission has allocated $25,000 toward the Stockard Youth Center capital campaign fiscal year 2023, so we appreciate that. We've got the Gateway West Phase 3 Transportation Enhancement from the Department of Transportation permit. We did a proclamation for National Small Business Week. We had the Chamber, Development Authority, Small Business Coach, hospital, various other business representatives in the community join us this week. We had a nice turnout for that. National Small Business Week is this week. We have the West Virginia Strawberry Festival Parade schedule for street closures. Myself and Recorder Sanders, last Friday we went up to Marion Street to the Fred Brooks Park, and we joined members of the Garden Club where they celebrated Arbor Day, and we planted 2 additional trees, both in memorandum of different club members and their families. So that was a nice ceremony up there. It's a beautiful day for it. We have a letter from David McCauley, gift supporting the SYCC capital campaign. So we appreciate that. And then we've got a letter from the West Virginia DEP regarding Operation Wildflower Program closeout. Under the consent agenda, we have the minutes from the 4/21 and 4/28 meetings to consider tonight. And then we also have the approval of the building permits and wiring permits and the approval of the payment of our bills. If there are no additions or corrections to the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion that we accept it. A motion by Sheila. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave Thomas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we are down to our strategic issues for discussion and or vote. We have already dispensed with 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Mr. O'Neill will start us off with number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The council has before it ordinance number 456 of the city of Buckhannon, and ordinance establishing the Buckhannon Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, setting the number and qualifications of board members, enumerating its responsibilities, and setting its authority, including its authority to advise on management of the Stockard Youth and Community Center, and establishing that board members serve at will and not for a term. Members of the council will recall we had discussed a prior iteration of this ordinance referred to this body as a commission, which has certain implications under state law, and so we took this back to the drawing board. This makes clear, not only in calling it an advisory board, but specifically in Article 3, the council clarifies and ensures that the group created by this ordinance is not a commission for the purpose of Chapter 8, Article 21, and aside from that, the council affirmatively reserves to itself those powers in Article 21 of Chapter 8. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
I appreciate you helping us with that. I appreciate Mrs. Lewis Signs for her eye on that. I have to admit, that did not cross my mind. Sheila taught it. I very much appreciate that, and I appreciate you bringing this back with much clearer language. So
yeah,
thank
it was
you.
Never, just to be honest, it was called the only reason it was called a commission was for the acronym that was created by to give it a Parks and PARC, Park and Recreation Committee.
Yeah.
There was never any intent to make it a commission, and this just kind of affects that intent. Oh, no problem.
So we have first reading. Could I entertain a motion that we accept this on first reading?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Sheila, a second by Randy. Is there any discussion? Hearing the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving ordinance number 456 on first reading signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Briefly, you can stay there, but F6. This should take just a second. I mentioned this last meeting. As we always do this, but May 19th is Thursday night in 2 weeks, and that is the evening of the Junior Royalty Parade. And so I'm asking that we go ahead and move the council meeting from Thursday to Tuesday. That would be May 17th. Same time, 7 p.m., same place, right here, so that doesn't conflict. So thank you, Mr. Thomas. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sanders. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. We will advertise it that it is on May 17th. Okay, now, F7.
F7 is the purchase agreement for that portion of that lot on East Lincoln Street. I'll defer to Mr. Sanders. He looks like he has some information.
And we had have had discussions with the owner of the property, and she just had some requests for clarification of language in the sales agreement, which was not a problem whatsoever. So it has been corrected by the city attorney and delivered back to the property owner. We're just awaiting her signature on the sales agreement at this point now, so I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought you
didn't
had something, I thought you had
No.
update. I'm
I
sorry.
thought it was bigger news than that, right?
I thought you were going
It's
to
just
say,
a matter of schedule.
well, you were shaking your head, I thought you were going to say she rejected.
Oh, no.
And we're buying only a portion of it.
Just a portion, a very, very small portion in the back.
So about 2,400 square feet.
Yeah. But we should have that wrapped up by the next council meeting then.
So if the council, and the changes are minor, it was just changing our commitment to build a privacy fence or other barrier to just removing that language, just saying it's a privacy fence. We backed the closing date up a month, and I think made some just other very, very minor changes, if there are any other changes to that. Again, if the council approves this tonight and she signs it, then the council will have to adopt an ordinance to put this into effect, and as soon as we know if this is moving forward, I'll have that ordinance prepared and ready for the next meeting.
But we already approved it once.
We approved it once, but there have been edits to it, so we thought it is appropriate.
Let's go ahead and approve it again.
Yeah.
I move we approve the property purchase sales agreement.
For 10 East Lincoln?
I think I heard Pam second, so we'll go ahead and say CJ is the motion carrier and Pam is seconding. Is there any discussion? Hearing the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed, motion carries. 8.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council has before it ordinance number 457 of the City of Buckhannon, an ordinance amending zoning ordinance number 244 of the City of Buckhannon by amending Section 502A thereof to include the placement of certain condominiums or unit property within the R2 General Residential District A zone. This is the first of 3 readings. Council may recall from prior conversations that the genesis of this ordinance was a recommendation by the Planning Commission that condominiums be included within permissible uses in the R2 zone. This does not change any characteristic of the R2 zone. It does not change any of the rules relating to the R2 zone. It only clarifies, because I would say that there's an argument to be made that condominiums or unit property may already be permissible. If someone were to fight the zoning or the ordinance, they may prevail. This just clarifies that they are permissible and that they do have to live by the same rules as any other structure that's in the R2 zone.
Right. It wasn't that
change the ordinances about requirements of off-street parking. You're not going to fit in that neighborhood. So if it could just exclude the historic district from this, that would be fine. But I further recommend that we form a committee to decide that the ordinances applying to these other buildings and stuff that have been allowed there since the ordinance was originated in 1988, that things have changed since then. And so in the residential R2 District A, I would think that we'd have a committee to decide what changes to the ordinance might be required by such changes as condominiums and duplexes and triplexes and everything that goes in there, because that was not at all considered when the ordinance was for the zoning ordinance was constructed and signed in 1988. So I'm not really pleased with just sticking it in the ordinance and saying all the other things will apply about parking. That's not the same anymore as it was in 1988.
Tom, question. Go ahead.
Well, I just the R2 zone and other structures in the R2 zone do have off-street parking requirements. They have to have 1 space per unit off-street. What was the other issue that you...
Well, my point with that was that's not enough for condo type things. Single apartments, maybe one person has 1 car. In condos, you're going to have families with 2 and 3 cars, so 1 off-street parking. That's why I want a committee to look this over and see what changes need to be considered with regard to putting condos in a residential area, or duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes, or whatever you want to call them.
Well, those are already permitted in R2. I mean, multifamily houses, duplexes are already permissible in the R2 zone right now.
So condominium is really just the title to the property. We're not permitting anything that isn't already permitted as far as
the difference between the difference is the nature of the ownership. So a condominium is a unit ownership property. So each unit or each apartment in the condo building is owned by a separate person, whereas in an apartment building, it's all owned by the same person, and you have common ownership among all of the unit owners of the common elements, the lobby, any other kind of community property that's associated with the condominium. And that also, and I should also mention too, that this ordinance requires any condominium to have an active homeowners association in order to stay in compliance, because I just know from personal experience that you can have all the covenants on your deed that you want. If you don't have a homeowners association to enforce them, then you don't really have anything. And from the city's perspective, the city really, I would recommend that the city really ensure that an active homeowners association be in place so that it has a party to deal with issues respecting the common elements of the property, the commonly owned elements of the property.
And that's what's referred to in this ordinance as have its own council, right?
That's correct. In state code, homeowners associations for condos are referred to as councils.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Now,
How about levels?
That's what.
well, they'd be subject to the existing zoning ordinances, and I don't recall in the R2 how many. I think it's 3 stories is the maximum in the R2 zone. So a condo could not be more than 3 stories.
But you're not sure it's 3 story, could be 4?
It's either 3 or 4.
Whatever the-
but I'm very confident it's 3. But it's
recollection is 3.
It's 3. Yeah.
Maybe 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we ought to know that before.
We have some 4-story homes in the historic district. I mean, we have a couple, if you count the.
I go pull the zoning ordinance if you'd like me.
I just have we can't, to Dr. Reese's point, there's no way to, if R2 is where this is going, there's no way to exclude the historic district, right? Because R2 is there, R2 is in places outside the historic district. If we're making a change to the zoning ordinance, wherever R2 is that correct?
That is, yes, I would reckon, yes. Now, I mean, the council has wide latitude to write the zoning ordinance the way it wants to. So if you wanted to do that, I think you could. It would just require amending the ordinance.
Well, because here, I mean, there is a specific development that I have been approached about, I've spoken to you about. It's not yet for public knowledge because the owner is not ready to go public with it, but there is a specific development that an individual has in mind for North Buckhannon. That's specifically, and that's where it went to the Planning Commission, and now we're talking about this change here. So what I'm wondering is, could we consider that? Could we go back to the drawing board and say this fits in R3, and we try to rezone part of North Buckhannon into R3 and start there and maybe see how it goes?
Well, if you want to rezone an existing neighborhood, you're going to have to notice every property owner, and that would involve rezoning every property owner's property.
Right, I understand that, because you can't just pick a property out.
I mean, I took this approach because this is the most straightforward way to do it.
Okay.
Any other option is much more complicated.
Okay. I'm just asking.
Yeah, no. I mean, answer to your question is yes, the council can do that, but it's a much more longer and more winding road.
But maybe that's what we need.
Yeah. Well, that is your decision.
I think if you look at where is the property that could be developed within city limits, and it's pretty scarce. Unless someone is contemplating buying up existing structures and demolishing them and building something else, but that's pretty cost prohibitive, I would think. To me, it's just a different form of ownership, and as long as they're not building anything that isn't already permissible.
This ordinance does not change the nature of any structure in the R2 zone today.
So I could build an apartment complex if I wanted to now, that I would own and rent out. But if I was a condo, wanted to build them and sell them as condos, although they're built like townhouses,
Well,
you think if I took that to court that I would probably be allowed
Well,
to do that anyhow?
let me modify your scenario a little bit. Let's say that you own an apartment building in the R2 zone right now. If you wanted to have it go condo and sell off those units, you don't have to, I mean, you can do that. You can do that to any apartment building, can be turned into a condo. The only difference between a condo and an apartment building is who owns it.
Correct.
Does one entity own it, or does one entity per unit, or group of entities per unit own it? That's the only difference. The structure is really unchanged.
It goes from an HO4 to an HO6, which means that you, instead of just owning the furniture and the TV sets and pictures that you bring to the apartment unit, you now own from the middle of the wall, which would include the kitchen cabinets and fixtures in your unit. You would own that. So,
What's the definition of an apartment building?
I'm not sure that apartment building is defined in the zoning ordinance specifically, but I would say that an apartment building is a multi-unit structure under singular ownership. And a condo is a multi-unit structure under multiple, diverse ownership.
But an apartment building could be a large home that eventually is divided into apartments. Is that correct?
Yeah, it could. I mean, yes. Strictly speaking, yes.
Okay. I think Tim made a good observation about the historic districts. And I don't know enough about that to make a comment tonight, but I wouldn't want to see necessarily condos and apartment buildings put in historic districts.
Well, they can, but apartment buildings can go in the historic district in the R2 zone
And
today.
my point on that was, I want a committee to look in the case where the people are individual owners, that we need to review that it's not just the ordinances that were in place for apartment dwellings and whatever in 1988. This is a different structure, and for them to have that kind of property and only use 40% of the rear yard as accessory use for parking, that's a whole different thing with condos. If you're going to have like 6 condos in one building, you're going to, unless you have at least 6 off-street parkings, and I would recommend 12, 2 per, you're going to have to triple the size of that lot in order to only use 40% of the rear lot, which is the requirement for an R2 district. Only 40% of that lot for accessory use. So I'm looking at these lots up here with the houses. You're not going to be able to get that kind of parking in that unless you level the whole block and build something.
Can I ask, could it not be like garages underneath and built on top?
Well, certainly, and that would, and they would, and again, they have to do that now. I mean, you have to have 1 parking space per unit today, right now.
Well, what I'm saying is you have one in the garage and one right in front, taking up the 2 spaces that he's.
Well, I don't think that, there's a situation down there. There's a situation down there on Meade Street where there's some student housing and they have a garage and there's a parking space in front of there. Well, you're supposed to have 1 parking space per sleeping room. Well, no one can run out there and get in their car and back out of there and go on, so that's not going to work. However, if they put attached parking to that one way or another and handle it that way. But I think we need a committee to look to see if you're going to allow condos, unless you're going to exclude them from the historic district, which we can do, or you can cut that R3 over there. We don't have to do this. Just because it's easy doesn't mean that's the route we want to go. And I'm looking at, the parking is going to be a major issue in this residential district here, and especially the historic. It's just not going to work. There's already been places where people violating, we're not enforcing the ordinance where people are using more than 40% of the rear lot for accessory use.
But I have to clarify, comparing apartment buildings with students compared to a family unit, they can get out. You know what I mean? That's not.
Oh, you got to run out and hop in your car.
Well,
You just can't open the garage door and there's a car parked there. That's required 1 street, 1 off-street parking per sleeping unit. So just putting a garage in and having 2 people park in front of it doesn't really work for that.
All right, I think we're kind of.
Yeah, we're slipping way off there.
Yeah. So I think, Dr. Reese, what you're addressing can be addressed in the overall zoning. I think what our city attorney is answering here is a request by our planning commission to add the term condominiums in the language, and they're going to be treated under the same zoning requirements as a townhouse would be that I could go rent as a tenant and so forth. So it's not going to make any catastrophic changes or dangers that's not where you perceive exist already. So what you're saying is a different subject that can be addressed, overall.
Oh, I'm saying that what went on in 1988.
You really need to wait to be
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so I mean well, the point that I was trying to make is, we have an opportunity here to add the phrase and add the term condominiums into the ordinance that will clarify something. What you're saying would have to be addressed in an overall revamp of the zoning of R2 itself.
With regard to those terms.
Right. But I think I'm comfortable with the ordinance as it's presented now, and your concerns should be addressed, I would think, at the planning commission first.
Well,
or zoning board, not zoning board.
Planning, I guess, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand his concern. I mean, I see his concerns, and I'll tell you too. And this is nothing against the developer, because I think what his plan is a really good plan. But I can tell you, it's not going aesthetically. If he were to take that development and from what he's talking about doing in North Buckhannon and putting it, on Mead Street, I don't think you'd like it, because it's not aesthetically going to be a historically accurate kind of structure. It's going to fit well over there, and he's already acquired property over there and done a lot of groundwork over there to make this a go. And I support him 100% in wanting to do that, because I think North Buckhannon needs some good positive development. We have a lot of houses that have been torn down in North Buckhannon, and so much of it sits in the flood zone that I think if we have somebody wanting to invest positively in North Buckhannon, I think we should be all for it. But I don't know that same development works in our historic district, and I think we do as a council need to be cognizant of that and try to maintain the integrity of our historic district going forward, because those designations can be easy to lose. The city of Beckley lost their historic district designation because they had too many structures going into historic districts that did not fit the historic district requirement, and so they lost their historic designation. The city Historic Landmarks Commission and you have to give credit a lot to Noel Tenney, has worked really hard to establish two very well recognized and two very well recognized historic districts with a lot of contributing structures in them. And I just think we need to be careful with our historic districts moving forward.
I think that's well said, and I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing with what he's saying. I'm going with Randy with, let's handle what's in front of us right now and let them start the process, because he said it would be a long, windy road, correct?
Well, it depends on how it's done. If you want to, it's been mentioned revamping R2 to require more to be. The discussion started to veer off, and where I was going was when the discussion was making condominium construction much more stringent than what already exists for apartment buildings. Now, to the mayor's point, the council can amend this ordinance tonight. It can amend the ordinance because it's a 3-reading ordinance. It can amend it tonight. It can amend it on second reading on May 17th. And we could amend this by adding a proviso, well, a second proviso, because there's already one in there. If we add a second proviso that says, provided that the condominium or other unit property not be placed within the designated Buckhannon Historic District, I don't think there's any problem with that. Then you basically have the 15 uses that are permitted in the R2 zone right now stay within the R2 zone, and this new 16th permitted use, condominiums or other unit property, would be limited to the R2 zone, the portion of the R2 zone which is not in the historic district. You can do that, and that is, I'm sorry?
Let's amend it as you just said.
second that.
That means we have to table it.
No, we can amend it.
You can amend it on first reading. You can amend it and adopt and approve it on first reading, and then when I present it to you on second reading in next Tuesday after next, you'll have a new draft of it that'll reflect the amended version.
So is that your motion?
Yes.
CJ motions, Sheila seconds. Is there any further discussion? Does that sound fair? Okay. We like to be fair. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Take that back.
Just to be clear here, play parliamentarian. So this vote is to amend the draft.
Correct.
And then you're going to need a second vote to approve the amended draft on first reading. So you're going to need 2 votes here.
Okay. So the motion that CJ and Sheila have motioned and seconded is to add the language.
And that second proviso that I discussed.
Yes. Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, like sign opposed. Motion carries. Now, the motion would be to approve on first reading with the language that has just been amended. So now, do we have a motion to that effect?
I'd like to get Tim's comments now.
I'm good now.
He's good.
So moved.
Yes, I was
Second.
concerned of putting condos in the way that they were have to be constructed in an historic district. I don't think they would fit in the ordinance without actually violating it.
You got it.
Okay, that's fine. We're the same thing. I said I'm good.
We all love this.
As Andy Griffith says, now don't screw it up. So, all right. So who motioned that one?
Rollins and
Signs again.
I got it.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Sir, you snuck in on us. We already had public comment in the beginning, but is there anything you'd like to talk to us about?
I just wanted to say hello. I'm Jeff Irwin. I bought the house up the street. I watch you on YouTube, and I love the town. I love the house, and that's all. Just stopped in to say hello.
So Dr. Irwin is from Myersdale, Pennsylvania, and he is a former now, counselor for the town of Myersdale, Pennsylvania, and he was a dentist up there, and he knows Mr. Rigger and Mrs. Rigger, who formerly owned the Governor's Inn mansion, and so that's how he came to Buckhannon. He stayed there with them several years ago, enjoyed Buckhannon so much, and has now made it his home. So welcome to Buckhannon.
Welcome here.
Yes, welcome.
Okay, now we are down to council comments and announcements. We'll start with Mrs. Buckle.
I'm just glad we're moving forward with the Colonial Theater. Like we said, we bought that 5 years ago. Had a lot of naysayers, but I think in the end it's going to be a hub for downtown, and I think it's a very positive thing for us to do. I'm glad we're moving forward.
Thank you. CJ.
And I'd like to comment that, it's great to see everyone coming together. How much more effective and efficient is working together, than apart? And if there's anything that differentiates this community from a lot of others, is that. So I tell people this is, Buckhannon is a 15-year overnight success.
We've moved it to 15 now. We used to be 10.
Well, more than 10, right? But on visual things, I'd like to thank the State Highway Department for reinstalling accurate crosswalks to the new ADA crosswalk entrances and exits, and it looks great. And I think with the paving and those fine details of the curb painting and the crosswalks, it's starting to feel different.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, CJ.
Mayor, I had one other thing. I wanted to encourage people, since we're getting things cleaned up and potholes and all this stuff, I'd like to encourage people to go out and if you have a sidewalk in front of your house, to clean the cinders up that can cause elderly people to fall, because that you can slide very easily on that. But you can't, and bicycles too, but you cannot sweep it in.
Those aren't supposed to be on the sidewalk.
Do not sweep it onto the street.
How do you define elderly?
You're it.
Speaking of which.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, speaking of.
I really appreciated James Moore being here, the interim president of the college, and I thought what he had to say was great. And the same thing with St. Joseph's Hospital and their commitment to the Colonial Arts Center. That's wonderful. And I would just ask everybody that has not voted yet, go ahead and vote for the city and the county. And good luck to everybody. That's it.
Thank you. Sheila?
Oh, Jack.
Oh, sorry, Jack. I was going by visual.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see Mr. Irwin there, and good addition to Buckhannon for sure. And I want to apologize to everyone for having to bail. Overdid it today, and apparently I was very low on my oxygen, hence the coughing, so I had to come home. And Buckhannon's a great town. It's looking good, and we just look forward to the things ahead.
Sounds good, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Now, Sheila.
Hope you're feeling better, Jack. I love this town. I just think it's a beautiful community with beautiful people, and I agree. This evening's really shown so many different people and being involved and coming together and figuring out things, and I just love it. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo what everyone else has said. It's wonderful to see West Virginia Wesleyan College becoming involved with the city of Buckhannon once again. And Dr. Moore, it was wonderful to have him present today. He's been a big supporter of the World Association of Marching Show Bands activity coming for 2023 that will be showcased on the campus there at West Virginia Wesleyan as well. Kudos to all of the folks involved in the search for a manager for the Colonial Arts Center, and our thanks to everyone in supporting the choice of Ann Wilson. She's going to do a tremendous job. We're very convinced of that. Furthermore, I had an opportunity to appear before the Randolph County Commission today, talking again about the World Association of Marching Show Bands. It was my second visit there. The first time I made a presentation and asked for funding from the Randolph County Commission of $10,000. They came back with a decision today to present funding in the amount of $7,500. So they are giving us $7,500 from the Randolph County Commission to help produce the World Association of Marching Show Band, which is a 501c3 event. So it's separate from the city itself. So our thanks to the commissioners in Randolph County for their tremendous support. So that, coupled with Harrison County's Commission providing $4,000. And Community Bank, when before Citizens purchased Community Bank, started us off with a donation to open up our accounts. We have other, Dutch Miller Auto Group in Charleston has committed to sponsoring a big portion of the parade. We have other potential sponsorships lined up and coming very, very soon. So things are looking very, very good on that front. But it's going to be a great day when we cut the ribbon on the Colonial Arts Center. And it's going to be a real jewel in the center of Buckhannon. So, looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir. Well, I appreciate this council more than you know. I appreciate the fact that the details are being taken care of. I mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting with Mr. Arnold, but this council has made it a priority to find the beauty in the details. And so I appreciate all the curbs being painted, streets being taken care of, and it just makes our community look so nice when you drive into it. I want to thank St. Joseph's Hospital again for $50,000 toward the Colonial Arts Center. That is a very nice gift, and I'm very proud to serve on the St. Joseph's Hospital Foundation Board of Directors. St. Joseph's Hospital, this community, we have no idea how fortunate we are to have St. Joseph's Hospital here. It is a tremendous organization that provides very high quality care to the folks that live here. And you know, I'll be the first to admit I was worried when WVU was going to take it over, because I wasn't sure what that was going to do here. But the marriage has been wonderful. They have expanded services here. We have more doctors here than we've had in a long time. My dad just spent several days up there last week and into the weekend, and we could not be more pleased with the care that he received up there. So it is a great part of our community. Thank you, Dr. Reese, for coming tonight to share your concerns, and I appreciate the council and you and us working together on this. Finally, as we all know, this is the last council meeting that we have before Election Day. And I wish you two the very best. Randy is running unopposed, so
wish me luck.
Yeah, he can only defeat himself. So, but I've
done it before.
I appreciate the comments here of we all are working together. I think we've got a very, very good council. I appreciate all the efforts that everybody is putting in here. And Sheila, I honest to goodness couldn't be more proud of you. I mean, you know, you came in to the council really just, you didn't like the Colonial Arts Theater very much, and you are now, I appreciate, leadership in a community is all about looking at what's in front of you.
Exactly.
And reviewing all of the information and making the best decision based on the information that's in front of you. And I appreciate the fact that you have really looked at all of the information and you've changed your mind about the project. So I'm very proud of you. I think you've really become a great counselor, and I appreciate the wisdom that both of you bring to the table. You know, I appreciate all of the advice that Mr. Thomas has given me over the years, and I certainly hope that we continue working together in the years to come. So with that, I wish you two the very best. I hope everybody does get out and vote. It is our civic duty to do so. Can't complain if you don't go have your voice heard. So
good luck to everybody.
Good luck to everybody, absolutely. And so, okay, with that, if nobody has anything else they'd like to bring to the table, at 8:44, I entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So
thank you.